Perfect.
There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And the voice, which is his, which we are going to talk to today, and we're going to talk about my favorite topic, which is women. And Brichelle, is that your favorite topic too?
No. But I think it is really good for everybody to learn because women kind of control our future. So there is that.
You mean if women weren't around, there wouldn't be any of us? Because I can tell you this, as a guy, I would not want to go through pregnancy and the birth and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it wouldn't be possible. So you got saved today, but we have an amazing guest, and he's here because people like you also love to talk about women and help them and empower them. And one thing that Bern says is to love your life, to fall in love with your life. And for women, that's kind of a big deal. And just for people in general, too, you can learn so much from someone else. No matter what color, race, religion, or whatever you are, we are all human and we're doing it together. So we have Bern Mendez here on the show with us. Thank you so much for being here and doing the work you do. How are you?
Thanks, Rochelle and Kevin, for inviting me. I'm doing great. I'm feeling excited about life and happy to share some ideas with you and your audience.
Well, first of all, and I asked you before we began, was Bern short for something? And you said yes. And Brichelle says it so beautifully. So we'll just say it once, and then the rest of the time you'll be Bern. But say his real first name.
It would be Bernardo, and I mean, it depends on who's listening, but Bernardo, we're just going to call him Bern because we're cool and we know him like that. But I'm really curious, Bern, what on earth made you do this work?
It was a combination of pain and chance. I say pain and chance because what first got me into the world of helping others was experiencing pain in my own life very, very early in life. I just turned 50, but I was 17 at that stage, and experiencing depression, not knowing how to break free from it, having a coach that guided me out of it, and feeling a bit of excitement about the prospect of helping others move through maybe not depression, but through challenges in life that they thought are really hard in a way that maybe is not as, I don't know, that doesn't take years and years. So that was the beginning of it. The specificity of my work, which is helping women in midlife find the love of their lives, that took a few twists and turns. I decided to start doing more of what I wanted to do when my father died. And not, again, more pain brought me to a halt and say, what am I doing with my life? We were talking a little bit about purpose, and sometimes the things that happen in your life that feel very, very challenging also become a threshold for new possibilities. So for me, it was that holding my dad in my arms, watching him die, and then asking myself the question, am I next? Because my grandfather died a couple months before him, and then my father died, and then there's no one next in line other than me. So I said, well, I need to do something that I really enjoy. So I started my YouTube channel many, many years ago, and I started sharing content. It wasn't specifically about dating or relationships, but organically, the listeners of my videos were women. And after many conversations, I got the clear idea that this was an area of life that was very, very challenging for women for reasons that I now understand. I didn't at the depth that I understand right now. And then started saying, okay, well, how can we apply this concept that I've been using for other challenges into the area of relationships? And then started going to the rabbit hole of relationships and learning more, and trauma and neuroscience, and many marriages later for the clients that I've had a chance to work with. I have a bigger understanding as to what's really happening and why it's so hard for women in midlife to experience commitment today.
Well, and Bern, I do have to say that your life experience all have, by the way, just got to say this. Are you sure you're 50? Can I see your driver's license? I don't believe it for a
Yeah, I
minute.
just turned 50 a week and change ago. It's surreal for me because I think about myself. I was having a conversation with my cousin yesterday. My grandfather, who's an incredible influence in my life, had his 30-year death anniversary yesterday. And just thinking about how quickly that time went. And so I don't feel 50, but yeah, that's that's the age.
So what is your birth date, if you don't mind my
September
asking?
13th.
Oh, so you're just a child. I was born September 11th.
Okay, cool. We're close, Virgos, both of us. So yeah.
Yes,
great.
and yes, indeed. And that one up there is an Aquarius. So but in your work, in your experience, do you find that almost everybody that you talk to says at one point in time, why am I here? What am I really here to do? And how am I supposed to live my great life when I don't even know what that is? Is that a conversation that rings bells with you?
Yeah, and it's a conversation, as we were talking briefly before we started, that you don't get to ask yourself maybe just once, but you get to ask yourself in different stages of your life in different ways. At the beginning, there's much more pressure because it's really, if you're in your younger years, really thinking that there's one thing you're here to do, when in reality, there's multiple things you're here for. And sometimes the pressure of having to find that one thing is the thing that makes it not happen. So the approach I take for whether somebody's earlier in life, I don't get to work with women in their 20s and 30s as much these days because my focus is really midlife. But I've had the privilege of working with women in all across the board in ages throughout my career. And when it's somebody in younger years, like you, Rochelle, I would say something along the lines of, instead of asking the question, what am I here to do, is what am I willing to explore? Because that's something that opens up the doors of, it's not so heavy, and exploring something, there's not the stakes in the game of, if I don't find it, then I'm screwed. Just the intensity lowers. So that's one way of looking at it. Later in life, I find that that's something that happens in a different way. It's a disappointment typically, because we get sold this idea that when you get the car or the house or the kids or the business or the milestone, whatever that is for someone, whether that's being at the 1% of income or whether that's something else, a big goal, that life will be just cool and chill and happy. And many people get to that stage and realize that it feels empty. So I think that part of the work around finding that edge in life is asking yourself the question in that different age, what am I willing right now to let go of, or even more boldly, what part of me needs to die so the next evolution of me can actually be born? And that's an exciting proposition, because you go from, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, to I'm reaching this space where I cannot see the path ahead of me, but I know it's there. I recently wrote a poem about that had to do with faith, the faith of not seeing. Because I got to the river. I love poetry, and I got to the river the other day. And every year I go to the river. I go every day, but the summer here in Texas is brutal sometimes. And then it evaporates the river, and there's a little waterfall area behind me that starts fading. And I got to the river this morning, and I said, this is maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I said, oh, it happened already. The river's no longer here. And then I sat down and I felt the little flicker of that river flow. And then I started thinking immediately, how judgmental of me to think this is gone, because it's not gone. It's not as strong as it used to be. And then something else came into my heart, which is, I know that the rains will replenish this river again, but it still feels scary every year. The question, will it come back again or not, always pops into my head. So then I started writing. So I sat down, I started writing something about the power of being able to feel the rains that are no longer, not yet here, but you can feel in some ways in your bones, in your heart, and trust and have faith that they will come, and maybe even be stronger than they used to be. So that's the adventure we're all in, is how do you let go of those preconceptions of where you should be? Because everybody thinks they should be further ahead than they are. And how can you open up to maybe something even more beautiful can show up for you if you're courageous enough to play your cards right? And that's the edge that I like to play.
That is really is beautiful. That you are. Have you always been this way, or did you start thinking deeper at one point? Because I got to tell you, because Rochelle, before we got on, she said she feels like she's having a midlife crisis now, and she's not even at midlife yet. And you said, well, I got good news for you. There may be more than one, and which just made her so happy. But at the same time, it's like a year and a half ago, she didn't know what she was going to do. She was a lunch lady, elementary school or a middle school. And then we got to talking, and now she's doing this. And then, and it just happened today, Bern. She also, unbeknownst to me or anybody else, loves to take pictures. And she is phenomenal at the pictures she takes. She's got an incredible eye. Didn't realize that she had an incredible eye. And so she didn't realize that anything was gonna become of it. But what happened today, Rochelle?
Yes, today, go look at our website, positivetalkradio.net, and there is a new tab, a new page on there that is Berchelle's portfolio, and you can take a look at some of the things I've been able to capture and clip. And as you're talking about this, Bern, that's what I'm thinking is, no matter what age you are or the midst of what you're feeling or going through or why, you can have those moments, those memories. You get to remember those things. And we talk a lot about, don't focus on the past because it's gone. Just be in the present moment and just keep your eye forward and don't think too much about the future. But there's such a harmony in mixing all of that together, because you're bringing the past with you and being proud of what you did do and learning from the things you made mistakes for, becoming a better person in the present moment. You're still willing to learn and grow and be further than where you are today. But then in a future point, you're also, that it's there. And it's that timing of, how do I enjoy this huge shift that is completely terrifying and feels like it's out of my control? Do you have a lot of people that tell you that?
Yeah, and I think that's my favorite poet talks about. How do you know you're on the right path? Because you can't see what's ahead. That's when you know you're in something real. Because if you can see the whole thing, you can plan it out. It's like, it's not as exciting. You're not at the edge of what's possible. And I'm not saying you should force yourself to do things that are just senselessly scary. But if you're not putting yourself out there in a way that pushes against something that you're not sure yet how it's going to work out, then you're not necessarily pushing yourself in the right ways. Because this life is one life, and you get a chance to do something bold and magnificent with it. And if you're finding right now that photography is one of those avenues for you that creates something different, where you're transported, where you don't even have to count the time, it just flies by because you feel so engrossed when you're doing it, then that's one avenue to pursue. And maybe from there'll be other avenues that will allow you to find all the combination of things that make this experience of life worthwhile, where the question maybe becomes, instead of what am I here to do, is how can I enjoy this more? How can I share my gift in small ways? How can I express 1 degree more boldness? And if you ask those questions, then the question of why am I here will reveal itself. If you ask the question, why am I here? Sometimes that just becomes, it's not that you can't get an answer, but sometimes that makes it a lot harder, because you get to falsely believe there's just one thing, and that thing will shift and fluctuate throughout life. It's the beginning of something that turns into something else, that turns into something else, that turns into something else. And that's the excitement of life.
Well, and there's one. Sorry,
Oh,
Kevin.
go ahead,
ahead.
Michelle. Well, I was just gonna go ahead.
I just wanted to
Ladies
say that it's
first.
crazy, because what you had said too is if a lot of people think, well, if this is what I'm supposed to do, then it's supposed to be a clear, beautiful, paved path. And sometimes the one that is meant for you, that your soul's like pushing you towards, is the exact one that you have no idea. You are literally going through the forest, through the trees, and you're trusting and building and growing off of that, then just kind of seeing everything. So the way you said that was just amazing. Sorry, Kevin.
And you'd asked Kevin a little earlier if I've always been this way. And to answer that briefly, the answer is yes and no. There's a part of me that's always been intensely alive, and someone who's an everlasting optimist, and somebody who really feels like the glass is half full. And I've had periods of deep darkness in my life that have shaken me to my core, dropped me to my knees, and that's the reason why I've been able to find things that sustain me, like rituals. Like every single morning I go to the river and I meditate. I take my shoes off. I see the sun come out. I sweat and go up the hill twice. I plunge in cold water. There's a few things I do because I know my nature, if I live it by itself, might tend to be into maybe sad or melancholy or depression. So I do things that take me into a place of seeing the other things that make life grateful, and also having experienced pain and heartbreak and disappointment. And it's, you have two choices, like, and they're really, it sounds so simple, it's, even though it's not easy, but you have the choice of going through the darkness and staying there, or you have the choice of saying, well, in the midst of darkness, because darkness will sometimes surround us, what else is there? And for me, it's the finding inspiration every single day that makes me feel. There's not sure if it's philosopher, poet, Camus in France, that used to say, "Leave to the point of tears." And the whole concept of that is, what are you doing in life that brings you to that point where you feel so connected to something real that tears naturally come out of you? And I'm doing more lately, especially since I've been watching this milestone birthday come around, to do that, because otherwise it's too painful. It's too difficult. So I would say I didn't find these things; they found me out of necessity.
And Bern, I have to tell you something, and this is a microcosm of life. When you woke up this morning and you knew that you were going to be on this podcast or this radio show, but I'll bet you didn't know that you were going to have an audience in Kenya.
That's amazing.
And Brishelle, tell us about
Hi, Samuel. We love you. Yes, Samuel is in the Kiberia slums of Kenya, and he takes care of children and feeds them with his community.
Wow.
I got to join in on the live recently this last weekend and see the whole building and everything he's doing, and he had the kids saying hi to me, and that was something that you just said that brings you to tears, because it's so fulfilling. And it's those moments of life that I think we need to just really try to focus on when there is nothing but darkness. But he's doing amazing things, and we absolutely love him. Just knowing that we're on that TV in that room being watched by all those kids is the biggest,
that's amazing, Samuel.
biggest blessing.
So you didn't realize when you got up this morning that you were going to be on a big screen TV with 20 people sitting around watching you in Kenya.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, excited. Hey, big hug to all of you from Austin, Texas to Kenya.
Exactly. It's probably hot there too, and they've got snakes there too. But
yeah.
But in any event, we're talking with Bern Mendez, and Brishelle. His website again is, and we need to take a break, and then we'll come back with so much more. But
yes, go visit his website while we take this short break, and it is bernmendez.com. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
And I got to find there's one here that I want. Oh, help me. There we are. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. In a dark room, a single candle was lit. That tiny flame chased away the shadows, filling the space with hope. Your courage, your kindness, and your light may seem small at times, but it can change someone's entire world. Never underestimate the power you already carry inside. Even the smallest flame can ignite a fire that transforms lives. You are listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. After the longest night, the sun rose again. It painted the sky with colors no one had seen before. That's how life works. Darkness never lasts forever. No matter how long the night feels, your sunrise will come. Hold on. Light always finds its way back. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope live. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Rochelle. That's her right there. And my name is Kevin McDonald. And Bern, I played that just for you.
Thank you.
That's pretty cool, because that really is the what life is about. That we go through it, and we have great parts, and we have parts that ain't so great, and then we have people that telling us we ain't so great, and other people that tell us that we is great. And I wish I could speak English. That would be good. But overall, it's all a fabulous adventure that we all get to take part in that is are the star of our own adventure. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget about it, or we think somebody else is a star. For example, in relationships, I think we get a chance to imagine that the day is cloudy, and when the right partner comes, the sun will shine. And it's not the way it works, at least in my experience. Not that it can be even brighter, because it is. The right relationships makes everything brighter. But if there's not something there to begin with that has a sense of magic and excitement and love, then whatever is will just magnify. And if something great comes along, then the experience of feeling that becomes your oxygen is really strong, because almost like you need it, because you can't do it on your own. So the approach I have when I help my clients is, before we get into how do you connect with better men in real life, is how do we connect to the part of you, like we were talking about before, that feels fully alive in such a way that A, it's easier to attract someone, and B, it makes it so that when you connect to the right person, you're not fearing the person leaving all the time, because you know that there's a great source of light you already bring to the table. So even though at some human level you do fear the person might leave, it's not a devastating experience of day and night. You already bring it's like the sun and the moon. You're the sun. You bring the sun into the room, then the moon you'll be able to see the moon at night because of the reflection of the sun. But if the moon by itself, without the sun, you won't be able to see anything. So it's being the sun more than the moon that creates the beginning of a possibility of a great relationship. And it doesn't mean that life is perfect, and it doesn't mean that there's no work to be done when you connect with someone. And also it doesn't mean that you just work on yourself, because you can work on yourself all you want. When you enter the room with another person, things that didn't show up when you're meditating in the mountain show up, surface. Triggers that you didn't imagine you had will hit you, sometimes 10 at once. So there's the combination of doing the work you need for yourself, but also at some point putting yourself out there to create connections with people, and then see what surfaces, and then start healing those things that you can't just heal on your own. There's things you can heal on your own, but there's things that you'll need to heal in a relationship. And that's the playground that we get to be in when we work in conscious relationships.
So when you're working with them, I know you're going to say yes, but I want to know exactly how you maybe work with it in different ways, maybe that it comes up. But across the board, is it, how do you talk to yourself? How is your self voice in your head controlling your life? And how do you help them change that?
Well, the self voice is part of it. Because even in simple things, like I had somebody recently say, I heard a client recently say something along the lines of, "Hey, this really messed up my life," or something, or the mess I made with my life. And that's a strong statement. And it may be something that's not as intense as that, but as long as we say it that way, that's how our nervous system responds to something that messed up our lives. When in reality, it's a decision that made it challenging. So this one decision makes it challenging, feels very different to tackle than this one thing messed up my life. And it's the same thing. It's just the interpretation is different. So I do work with clients very specifically, not just on the language, because the language is the beginning of it, but what's the vibration behind the language? And that could mean, to give you an example, the elevation you're at any moment in time, like you see the mountains behind you. If you're at the base of that mountain and it's a stormy day, and I ask you, what do you see in front of you? You may not be able to see more than 1 foot ahead of you, and it's cloudy and there's fog. If you go midway up the mountain and I ask you the same question, same place, higher elevation, you can see the top of the mountain. If you go all the way to the top, let's say Mount Everest, and I ask you the same question, what do you see? You see the top of the world, the most beautiful vista you've ever seen in your life. Same space, different elevation. Elevation is the emotional state we're in. Elevation is the vibration, the level of gratitude, the way we frame things. So sometimes the beginning of it, it's hard to start working with your mind, where your nervous system tells you, but it's sucky anyways. Like, I don't even believe you. You can change the words, but if the frequency, the elevation is still low, so sometimes we start with the body. I start helping them move differently and doing the kinds of things that help them to recognize, not without any type of words, in feeling and emotions, that there's more. When they're in that place, then introducing a better question or asking them to reframe something makes more sense, because you're not fighting every part of you. It's like climbing up the mountain, Everest, with no Sherpa and with 3 backpacks and with no oxygen. Theoretically doable, but who's going to do it? So if you have more of that movement, if you have more of those rituals that sustain you and create a regulation of your nervous system, but also a feeling of hope, then when something challenging happens, you're in a different place to handle it. The place you're at emotionally to handle something will determine how it plays out for you. Same human being can be 2 human beings. I have clients who say, well, I haven't been able to do this for the last 10 years. And I ask them usually, who is the I that you're talking about right now? Is it the I who's cynical, the I who didn't have the skills, the I who felt rejected, the I who didn't push for her voice to speak out? Because if that I changes, then you can have different experiences, even though internally you feel you're the same person, you're not. So I'd say we work on the reframing of things. That's a big part of what we do, the way we talk to ourselves. So before that, we work on changing. It sounds hocus pocus, the vibration of where we are, but vibration, I'm not talking about in a new age ways. How you move, how you breathe, how you regulate, so that there's more possibilities within the same container.
Yeah.
Bern, I've got to ask you
stunning.
if you've got
Sure.
a lineup of men who are interested in perhaps dating some graduates of your coaching system, because I got to tell you, there's a lot of baggage that comes with people. And if you've been on the planet for 40 or 50 years, you've had maybe a divorce, maybe 3. You've had family members that have come and passed. You've got challenges that have happened. And because I'm a little older than you, what I've discovered is that there are lots of people who allow the baggage of the past and what's happened to dictate what they're now going to do and be in the future. And a lot of people, and women specifically, which is what we're talking about here, they look at it like, I've got so much baggage. Men, screw them, and the horse they rode in on, I don't want any part of anything to do with them. I hate those people. And do you help women recognize that maybe changing themselves, they can open up to other people and other possibilities?
Yes, I do. And I to the point that you shared, I will share, because I've been doing a lot of research on this lately, is that the supply and demand experience for women is real. I would be lying if I said, well, just shine more and you'll find there's guys everywhere. Not the type of guy most women are looking for right now. If you're like, I'll give you a statistic that will maybe, if you know it, it won't, but if you do, it'll blow your mind a little bit. Like if you're a single woman in the US, and in many other countries, we're talking Germany, we're talking UK, we're talking Switzerland, we're talking, I mean, like around the world, it's a big deal. And you're between the ages of 40 and 64, what's considered midlife, even a little older, and you went to college. So, I mean, between that age group, went to college and have median income for your country or above, there's 10 women for 6 men available at the same footing. So
that's good odds for us.
Yeah, but not for women, right?
No.
So that's the first of maybe 20 data points that make it challenging for women specifically. The disparity between number of women, for example, who have mental health issues and go to therapy versus men, 15-point spread, for example, more women than men. So there's many different points that make it challenging. So my whole idea and that's part of the reason why I'm helping women right now, is because there's lots of women who are thoughtful, insightful, they've done the work, and they're saying, where are the guys? They're not showing up here. And my whole thing is not saying, oh, they're everywhere. They're not, but we can still find them. There's things we have to do if we want to make sure that that resonance takes place. And that's really the whole process I've created, is for not how do you say there's no sun because your thumb is basically up in the sky, but how do you, despite the multiple challenges that exist, can put yourself out there in a way where you can still meet your person. And it's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge once you understand it, and also once you step into the process. Is not just the painful mechanism to catch a husband. It's a spiritual journey that will allow you to grow in ways you would have never had to grow, and be more resourceful, and have parts of you be activated in the best of ways. So if you take it that way, before you meet the guy, you're winning, because there's parts of you that are changing in necessary ways that are going to be helpful irrespective of the man. So I do help them sometimes also, to your point, Kevin, to recognize that not everything that they want as a must-have is a needed thing. Women will tell me all the time, hey, what kind of guy do you want? Well, kind and gentle and outgoing, and really, really great qualities. And then there's a hidden list. He must make this much money, and he must be this exact height or long or taller. And so qualities that do not pan out necessarily within reason in longevity studies about relationships, that will not determine the quality of your relationship. So if you equate, for example, height at the same level of kindness, you might mathematically rule yourself out. To give you an example, very specific, if you're a woman who's saying to yourself, hey, I want a tall guy, and tall, let's say 6'2", then in that one first wish, you eliminate 93% of men in America. And you have maybe 10 more, 20 more wishes, then you see where this goes. It makes it so if you're willing to be flexible on the things that are not essential, even though you've told yourself it is, and your mom told you it is, but if you know those things are not essential, and you open up to other qualities that are more important, then you can definitely find a person. And it's not lowering your standards, it's opening up to things that really matter. So part of the work that I do, in addition to help them find and connect with better guys, is rule out the BS that's not necessary, that they think is necessary to create an amazing relationship.
Okay, let's see here. You said kindness is important.
Yes.
Okay, I check that one. You say outgoing is important. Okay, I check that one.
For some women it is, for some women it isn't. But yeah, for many women, they want somebody who has confidence, right? Somebody who has confidence, somebody who's not necessarily all about himself, who can express emotions. That's an important skill, for men, that many men haven't developed, unfortunately, which is the ability to know what they're feeling and express it. Many more women, even though it's still a challenge, have the language, because it's much more socially acceptable for them and girlfriends to talk about this than men. They connect with guys and they're not sure what they're really feeling. And it doesn't mean they're not feeling things. Men are super feeling beings, but sometimes the literacy of emotions is not necessarily there to translate the vibration of that to the experience of the emotion.
And Rochelle, I always know when we're doing well, because I always blow through the break that I'm supposed to take, and I'm late for it now. And so when we come back, and by the way, kind and outgoing, but I'm not 6'2", so I lose. So in any event, we need to take our quick halftime break, and we'll be right back. And Rochelle is going to ask you a question, because I know she's dying to, when we come right back.
Sure.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
And we're back, everybody, because I can't find the break. So we're going to just continue on. This is too much fun that we are having. Rochelle, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, based off the statistics you gave, and then our leading up conversation, I'm thinking about how important it is to have emotional intelligence. And a lot of times I think that women are the ones that think that they hold that. But men seem to be a little more regulated when it comes to emotions, as hard as that is to understand. And at my age, there's this, it's the opposite of what you said for when you get older, right? There's endless options. And it's just to where everybody starts to become the same. But maybe that's why, is because if we don't learn that emotional stability and intelligence within ourselves and who we are, then we go searching for that at that age when there's 100 of them in line all the time, and we pick one, and then we get through the next 30 years of life, and then there's not many options, and you're confused, and everything that you thought was right is all of a sudden changing, and you thought you were controlling it, but maybe it was making it chaotic. So this leads me to the question of asking you, have you had somebody yet that has come to you and say, I've been able to understand this now from where I was in the past and how much more it's important to incorporate that in my life now so that they can pass it on and teach the younger generation like us that it's possible to do that, maybe even at an earlier age.
Yes, I've had many clients who have children, and part of the quest for them to find the relationship that's right for them is not just for having a fun weekend, but it's also to be able to show their children what is possible. Because especially if they've had a very painful
Yeah.
previous marriage, even maybe abusive marriage, which is not uncommon, that they get to turn the tables and have a second act and share that experience. So I'd say the majority of people in life, and this spans across the generations, even though right now there's more education than ever before for younger people. It's still not there as much as it needs to be. But many human beings enter a marriage and they've never taken a single hour of schooling into a conscious relationship or repairing interactions or self-soothing. So it's no wonder that relationships end up in disaster, because we have really high expectations and we see it all around us, and we see the Instagram couple in Bali and we think that's reality because they're really happy even though they were fighting before the picture was taken and were fighting after the picture was taken. But we get to think they have that and I don't. But the truth is most people have very mediocre relationships, and the reason for that is because we take more time through no fault of our own. Nobody necessarily teaches that there's a thing like relationship literacy, to learn how to program our TV than to really know how to create conscious communication with somebody else and how to express our needs without being defensive. So that's one of the challenges right now for women and for men, is the super high expectations we have relative to the very low level of education we receive around how to make that high vision a reality. And then there's this myth that love is the most natural thing in the world. And yes, the feeling of love is very natural. The experience of living with someone for 50, 60 years and loving each other and being passionate and having that person be your best friend and your lover and your spiritual sensei and your sexual partner, and it's fun and adventurous but also secure, like that's never happened in human history. This is the first time in human history where relationships have that possibility, but most people won't reach there. Won't reach the promised land because they're thinking, because it's natural, I shouldn't have to invest in learning about it. But the truth is, what's natural is what's common, which is mediocre relationships where people tolerate each other, get divorced. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it's not sustainable in the way that we hope it is in the highest levels of expression. So one of the good things that comes, we're doing this type of work, whoever ends up doing it, is that you get a chance to step into a better relationship. It's not just, I'm not good enough, therefore I have to hire someone to help me find my person. No. It's about how do you step into a better version of yourself, but also have better skills when you enter that relationship so you can voice your needs and you can see what's reasonable and what's not reasonable, and how much pressure you're putting in the relationship for things that you're not taking care of in your own life. So this can become a process to really find a more fulfilling, because at the end of the day, the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. And if you have a primary relationship that's romantic, that is painful, your entire life is going to suck in more than one way. And if you have a primary feeling, there's going to be things that are challenging that are a lot easier to handle, from disease to deaths around you to good moments that are just better as a result of finding that human.
Well, and it's hard because I'll give you an example. The high school that I went to had a graduating class of like 1,500. And I had a lot of friends, and a couple of them got married right out of school. And I only know two out of all the people that got married that are still married today. In 40 or 50, it's been 50 years now. So 50 years later. And on the other hand, I have a good friend. They were a couple in high school and they did get married. And between them, they've been married 7 times. So it gets really challenging to, number one, find that person. But as an example, Bern, I need some advice here because I do 8 to 10 to 12 shows a week. I don't have a great deal of time. I have lived on a bit of a fixed income because I'm giving a lot of the money to what I'm doing, and
Mhm.
so I would not be looked at, I don't believe, as a desirable. And okay, I've got a little extra tonnage, and I wouldn't be looked at as a desirable person, female, because I'm like them a lot, and in more than um, I wouldn't be considered desirable because of my lifestyle and what I do. And I'm 68 years old. Michelle thinks the world of me as a grandpa, but that's about it, and stuff, right, Michelle?
Yes, yes, I think 100%. Kevin, I'm wish I could help you more. I wish I could help myself sometimes too. So that's why we have Bern
Here's what
here
I would
to do this.
say, Kevin. I'd say that every person, I mean, that there's a type of person who's going to be resonant with what you have to offer, and it's important for you to realize what it is that you're offering beyond the material or beyond the cosmetic things that may not be as relevant as other
Mhm.
things. So what I would say is doing an inventory in your own heart of what are the things that would make you an exceptional partner. And if there's things that you feel, well, I need to work a little bit on this, start working on them. But if there's things that you already know you're great at, maybe you're very loyal and that's something you can put into the table, that's valuable. Maybe you have emotional attunement, you understand how to read people, that's important because many guys don't. Maybe you are someone who's very passionate, you seem to be very passionate, that's something that's helpful. Maybe you're funny, that's something helpful. So I'd say that you need to connect to the truth of what makes you you, and then understand that if you don't maybe darken it with a but it's not this, can resonate more strongly. There's something to be said about putting yourself out there also. It's not just it's going to happen on its own. Like, it's once you understand that, then go out and connect with human beings and ask good questions, and don't settle for someone who's looking for maybe just a bank account. If that's not what you bring to the table, but you bring to the work ethic, and you bring to the table passion, and you bring to the table helping others, there's going to be a woman out there who's definitely looking for that. And if you're focused on what you don't have, and she's not going to resonate with you, because she's going to feel that fear or that ambivalence or that lack of confidence from you, where in reality you may have some amazing traits right now as you are, that will put you into the category of valuable partner. So I'd say I would challenge the view that you're not a valuable partner for someone, but it has to come from you. You have to be that person who comes back and says, you know what, I do have amazing qualities, and the right person will see them, and then taking the leap of faith of doing something about it, of not just hoping for somebody to knock on the door, but saying, I'm going to go out and create conscious connections.
Can you make them knock on my door? Because that's how they're going to have to find me.
Well,
Because
then it wouldn't be
No,
fun.
Kevin,
Then here's the
you
thing, Kevin. You wouldn't transform into the man you have to be if you didn't have to put some skin in the game. You know?
I
yes,
think I'm
and
going to
you
get
better be
yelled at
taking
right
notes,
now.
Kevin. This is not fair, and I hope you're hearing this loud and clear because you tell me the same dang thing. So, just for the
So
people in the
there, what do you
back.
say about that? It's Bern, it's a very interesting experience because in my younger life, the relationships didn't go all that well, and in fact I was married for 24 years, and like I say, it was the best 6 months of my life, and so
Mhm.
things didn't really resonate or work out. So are there lots of people my age that are saying, basically, phooey, I'm done with that, I've had enough of it,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna play with that anymore?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's people who decide, and there's no judgment on my part if you say, I'm going to throw in the towel. That's not for me. My only question to them is usually, are you consciously choosing this because you don't want it, or because you don't think you can have it? Because there's a difference.
There is.
And if the answer is because I don't think I can have it, then the better question becomes, what do I need to do to step into it, instead of maybe saying it's not in the cards for me? Because if it's not in the cards, but there's things you can play out so that it is in the cards, then play out those things. And if you fully decide, you know what, I don't want a relationship, then that's fine too. It's not gonna no one's gonna come back and say, hey, you didn't do this. It's just one. If it's in your wish to do it, I'll say it this way, Kevin. I think I connect with lots of people who say to me, I want deep love in my life. And I connect with a smaller subset of those people who say, I'm committed to doing what it takes to create that conscious relationship. So the work really is, if you really want it, make your wish a commitment. Because if you learn the skills, it can be very different. If you don't, then it's going to be like, well, it didn't work out. Well, it didn't work out for many reasons. And it's not just you. Your ex partner did some things and you did some things. But once you recognize the patterns and say, okay, well, that's how I used to be. Here's what I'm going to do differently. Then you bring a level of consciousness so that relationship becomes not the, you're not going to be better despite the relationship ending, but because of it. You're going to use it as a force to learn and to grow and to evolve, because it was so painful. The ending, the whole thing was painful. You can say, well, what can I learn from this? And how can I do things differently? And what are my patterns? Where do I not show up in the way I need to? And irrespective of the woman, would my life be better if I showed up in the ways that I would have to get that partner? If the answer is yes, then forget about the partner. Just do those things, because your life's going to be better anyways, you know?
Yeah.
I wish I'd have said that. He's pretty smart, isn't he, Michelle?
Yeah, it's amazing, especially because you're talking about when you change yourself, you change your life, everything has to follow it. You probably had women come to you that are like, I'm attracting different kind of men now because I myself have
Yeah.
put myself in the shoes of being the woman that they're also looking for, who loves herself. And I know we
Yeah.
need to take a quick break, but there's so much more we need to talk about. So Kevin, take the break, and then we'll spend our last 15 minutes trying to squeeze stuff in.
And Bern's website, where do they go
Yes, go to
to
Bern's
contact
website,
you?
bernmendez.com. Go check it out. There's so much information. And take a look at the testimonials too. They'll really hit home. So we'll be right back.
And you don't have to throw in the towel if you don't want to throw in the towel. What you said is really, really accurate. Is, do you believe that you don't want a relationship, or do you believe that you can't have the relationship you want? That's a completely different question, isn't it? We'll talk
Yeah.
about that when we come back. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this: be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. And welcome back to Positive Talk. Michelle is right there, and my name is Kevin McDonald, and Bern Mendez is here, and he's a relationship coach, and he works predominantly with women who have been hurt, and they've been abused, and they have been unhappy, and now, and now they may be, and this is, well, I'm going to let Michelle go because I think she's got a bunch of stuff, but at one point, I want to talk about the empty nester syndrome. The kids grow, the husband goes out for a younger model, and she's there by herself. How does she fix that, Michelle? But you ask your question first.
No, sincerely, I would love to talk about that and hear perspective, because I have a lot of insight learning from you guys way before time. So I'm perfectly fine with spending our time talking about that. Go ahead, Bern.
I would say that that's a wake-up call for most humans, because I think that, especially for women, and I say especially for women because in this society, women tend, and it's not always the case, but in aggregate, it's more women than men, tend to take a very involved life with their children. And there comes a point where, I mean, starting teenagers, even when they're still in the home, don't want that much to do with parents. And rightly so. They're exerting their independence, they're spreading their wings, and then at some point they leave the home. And then sometimes at that stage, many women start asking the question, well, like, they're gone and I'm here by myself. Like, what am I going to do? And I think it's a great opportunity, because I think that pain sometimes can lead to uh, an, it's an catalyzing agent that helps you to do things you wouldn't have done if you didn't feel that pinch. So I think that in life, sometimes we don't get to volunteer to change for some high ideal. Sometimes life forces us to change, just how we are. I mean, sometimes we will do more to avoid pain than we'll do sometimes to gain some possibility or some future. So when that pain hits us, I think it's a great wake up call to say, okay, what do I want to do for myself now? How do I want to spend the rest of my life? And again, going back to your question, Kevin, if I told myself that I can't do this, then say, what if it's possible? What if there's a thing I can do or a type of person I can connect with that would make this different? And then from that question, it's a beautiful question, opens up more possibilities. I think that the power of questions and language to change lives is, for me, more and more. The older I get, the more astounded I become as to how one powerfully placed line can change your entire life. Maybe the line is, I'm starting, or I'm ending, or I'm having faith, or maybe it's a poem. For me, I read something that moves me, and there's like an ignition in my heart that doesn't even understand or it's going to get the resources to do it, but I just know I'll find the resources, because who said it? I think the author of The Little Prince, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, wrote this line that was paraphrased. It's not an exact line, but he said, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people and teach them and assign them tasks and jobs, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. If you teach somebody to long for the sea, they'll find how to make a ship. And that's the kind of principle we're talking about, Kevin, where we're saying, okay, if you have a strong enough vision for what it is that you want, then the how is more easy to come about. But if the first line of questioning is the how, then you may never get to how to do it, because there's not a strong enough why. It's too challenging. It's like, if we knew, like everyone, I mean, including you, Michelle, I think there's times in life where if we just knew what we would have to go through to get, like, for example, if I just knew what I had to go through to have this business, and to, like, if I fully knew it, I may not have done it. So sometimes there's a blissful ignorance that comes from saying, I have something so powerful that I'm just going to find a way. And then that's part of the work, whether you're an empty nester, or whether you're somebody who still has children, or somebody who never had children, because there's many women out there who never got married or never had children, to say, how can I connect to what I want so deeply that the how can start showing itself to me, versus how do I find it? And then it's too hard, because the passion, the vision, the excitement, the juice isn't vibrating in a way that allows you to find the answers.
Yeah.
Rochelle?
That is a beautiful point for so many reasons. Everything you're saying and the way that it's led up into, it doesn't matter who you are, why you do, like, even mentioning that there's women who, they don't have children, they don't have that connection, they've longed for that, and it's like, it's the what's possible. And I love how you turn it around, though, to say what's possible for me, not outside of me. You're not seeking it, you're not finding it, you're not chasing, you're not pushing and pulling against everything.
Yeah.
One thing that came to mind, I love saying this, it's been something I live by as I've learned through the last few months of life. But the more that you surrender, the more you actually gain control. And I know for women, controlling everything is something that we think is just normal and we're supposed to do from a young age. But I've seen so many different women so much recently that any stage in their life that they're at, and no matter why they are doing what they're doing, they have that surrenderness. And you talk about allowing it to kind of come to you. What is that like, going through with people when they just, like, it just clicks for them and they're like, Bern, oh my gosh, I all of a sudden just understand everything that you're saying because I just let it go.
I think it's really powerful. I feel it, because I have had the blessing of witnessing so many different times. Many times it's when we're doing this work. Sometimes it's a couple of months after we end doing the work, but just there's the message. there's a message of, hey, this happened maybe 4 days ago. A client of mine that I ended up working 6 months ago, roughly, messaged me, left a voice memo or a quick message saying uh, that this guy showed up in her life. And she's a woman who's in her early 40s, but she wants children still. And this man wants children, and the connection is growing. And I don't know exactly that she'll end up with them, but I can feel that there's a super strong probability based on many types of frequencies of that happening, knowing all the variables, the type of guy that's showing up, the type of client, all the variables. I have a pretty good gauge when something is going to go the right way. And that feels exciting. Sometimes it's a message saying, hey, here's my ring. Or sometimes, do you want to come to the wedding? Sometimes it's something along the lines of, hey, I left him. That's also a threshold for someone who they're trying to do this and it's really hard. And finally, they have the courage to say, no more. And every one of those thresholds is such a beautiful thing for me to experience. I don't have the ego to feel I did this, because I didn't. There was a catalyst agent in the work that I'm doing that sparked some of it. And for that, I'm super grateful, because there's nothing for me more exciting in life than witnessing the light coming back into someone's eyes after they see a new possibility they didn't see before, and then they start acting upon it, and then their life starts shifting. And sometimes it takes a while for the results to catch up, but the moment it happened. Like, I have a client, and she had her husband die in Iraq. If you can imagine, she's in her house, she's in her early 30s, and somebody knocks on her door, and it's a flag, soldier with a flag, basically, to give her the bad news. And she was devastated. The guy was the love of her life. She was really in love with him. She had a really good marriage, and she's, widow at the age of 31 or 32. And then she went into 3 back-to-back painful relationships. And then we started our work. She ended the last relationship, and she, in her mind, it's like, I found him already and he's gone. So what am I here to do in love anyways, And we were able to, in one single session, we worked for a couple of months, but in one session, she was able to reframe because in her heart of hearts, if she found a guy, she would be in some ways betraying the memory of her late husband. And that's what she felt in her heart. And when we made the shift of, that's going to be a love that's added to on top of the one that exists, and perhaps this energy is going to be part of the reason why you find this guy, because you've experienced this vibration, so you will settle for nothing less than that. So he'll always be present with you. The moment that shifted, it was a game changer for her. The next morning, a guy showed up. This had never happened to her in her life. She lived in Austin. She went to Whole Foods, the main Whole Foods here in Austin, and a guy stopped her to say, hey, you're so radiant. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That wasn't the guy she ended up being with, but that was a sign. I think life speaks to us in subtle signs. Sometimes it's a moon comes out and it's super bright, and that's a good sign of things to come. But in her case, there was a sign that she showed up differently after that, after the previous night having this conversation. And then soon enough, a month later, a guy who'd been her friend, who'd seen her transformation and witnessed how strong she was showing up. And she was about to pour herself. I was like, no, I want you to be my partner. And they're still married. They've been together for, more than 10 years. They live in Hawaii. They have a couple of beautiful children. But it all started with that moment. That one moment of, okay, it's not in place of. So that I've had now an opportunity to have, maybe thousands of those little moments. And it's one of the biggest reasons why I do this, because this is not an easy thing to do necessarily. There's times where business is incredible, times where it's not. But the thing that keeps me going is knowing that there's a strong purpose that goes beyond just the woman finding the guy. There's families that have been created. There's sometimes it's the first time in that woman's lineage that she gets the type of meaningful love that her mom didn't have, her grandma didn't have, her great grandma for sure as hell didn't have. And here she is right now experiencing something that's a before and after for her future generations. And for me, that's a huge gift.
Well, the ripple effect is dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Bern, we've run out of time, and I can't believe it's gone so fast. But I want you to tell our audience anything you'd like them to know in the minute or so we have left.
Well, what I'd say, if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, it's too late for me, I'm too old, I'm not sexy enough, I'm not thin enough, that you really stop and ask yourself the question, is this really, if you have, imagine you have one more year to live, is this really what you want to put out there? Or is there maybe the possibility of something else? Go to my website. There's a link to my YouTube channel. There's hundreds of free videos that you can watch. BernMendez.com, BernMendez.com. go through those videos. They're going to teach you a lot, and they're free. There's a quiz you can take also that will show you your main blind spot in relationships. And if you feel like you want to see if we can work together, there's also a link there to test that. But there's a lot of information and a lot of insights that can give you that little bit of light at the end of the tunnel that can give you a different perspective and perhaps create this for you.
Thank you so much for being here. Brachelle, you've learned something today, haven't you?
Oh, tons. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
And you're going to have to come back because we're not done with you yet. So
Sure.
And if you can find somebody who wants to come to my house, I'll give you my address. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.